What's up, bikers? Episode 191. Today, we're going to talk to Sean from N+1 Bikes and Rich Moore. You may know him from the Cindy channel as well. So it's going to be the three of us on here talking bikes for a few hours. But before I get started, I want to tell you guys a couple of things. First of all, just got back from Whistler, and that was awesome. And the whole time I was there, I was riding my RE LaSalle Peak, and that thing did not disappoint. The EXT suspension I have on there is on point as usual. And for 170 mil enduro bike, that thing handled everything I threw at it. So if you're thinking about picking up a new enduro and you haven't been liking the prices of some of the big brands, go ahead and check out RE. They're direct to consumer, and I've been super happy with everything that they've done so far that I've been riding. So definitely take a look at them. As far as if you're looking for some new gear, Tasco MTB has been a sponsor of the channel this year, and you can swing by TascoStoke.com. While I was up there, it made me realize that people who are not living in Northern California could actually possibly be wearing pants still during the summertime. And up there in Whistler, definitely was wearing pants. So if you're thinking about some new pants, the Tasco Scout pants, I really enjoy them. And they have this like tealy blue color that every time I wear them, somebody, without a doubt, one time during the day, somebody will walk up and be like, dude, that color's sick. So if you're thinking about buying that, or maybe some gloves, or maybe even a t-shirt, they got some good casual wear as well, some good wicking stuff on top of that. And use code biker B1KER, save some money, and that'll be awesome. Outside of that, Cali Protectives has also been a longtime supporter of the channel, and they've been dropping some new colorways, or whatever you want, some new colors on all their helmets. They're doing this like limited thing, so instead of ordering as many as they used to, they get a smaller batch and just a bunch of different colors. So I was running the DH Invader the entire time I was in Whistler, and they have this new kind of cool green color that goes with it, but they also have another one that they released just like a week or so ago. That's this really rad zebra rainbow kind of looking thing. And anyways, if you're thinking about a new DH helmet, use code B1Cali30, save 30%. So that helmet's normally $260, so it'd be over $60. I can't do math 30% quickly, but that's what I got for you. Anyways, code B1Cali30, one per email. I'm sure you guys can figure that out. Anyways, let's go ahead and bring these guys on, and let's talk about bikes. How's it going, Rich? How's it going, Sean? Oh, Sean's mic's muted here. Let me see if I can help him out here. Nope, he did it himself.
There you go.
There he is.
I didn't know if you can hear me. Like when we were in the backstage thing, I was like, I hope you can't hear me. I better mute this.
Yeah, back there farting and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think some people are already probably aware who Rich is from his Cindy channel. But Sean, can you tell me like how you got into this whole bike situation?
The bike situation? Yeah, I mean, I've always ridden. I started like back in 1976 was my.
Oh God, don't do that.
That was my first like full size like bike. It was a Stingray. It was a 76 Stingray Bicentennial. Ended up turning it into a BMX bike later. You know, it's kind of everybody did in that day and age. Then I started doing BMX in '79. When you guys were
just
I
being
guess
born.
You weren't even born, I'm sure.
So, I don't know. How old are you, Rich?
I was born in '79.
Okay, oh, yeah. I was born in '77, so he had me on the first bike. I was like, all right, well, I guess we're going all the way back. So I saw something on your site, Sean, that said you were like building like custom builds or something like that for a while before you decided to get into the bike shop game.
Yeah, I kind of just started out with I just built bikes for friends and stuff, and figured out like where to buy the stuff and everything, and just kind of putting like a lot of my buddies didn't know what exactly they wanted, so I just kind of put it together for them and trying to find them a good deal and build it, and then kind of just moved from there. Just slow process. That was probably like 2013 or 14. I just started playing around with it a little bit, mainly for myself.
So before that, what were you doing? Were you in the bike industry at all, or just
not at all? No, not at all. Still riding
So
bike, motorcycle.
just an avid rider then, and you're
Yeah.
like you were like the buddy out of the group that everybody's like, hey, I want to build something.
What should I get, kind of thing?
Hit
Yeah.
up Sean. So where'd you start with that? Just like you were just like ordering off the performance magazines and the Nash bar?
Yeah, just from just people that I knew in the industry and stuff. Just slowly kind of getting to know people and just figuring out ways to I mean, like I remember in I guess 2012 or 13, it was like if someone spent $4,000 or $5,000, like it was a big deal,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was like a big deal, even though the bikes were still just as expensive then. But I guess it was 15, 16. Let's stay here. It's 2024. I've been doing this for 6 years now. So, and 2018, I was there's a bike shop that I was getting just good deals from. A friend of mine owned the bike shop. And he's like started asking me, like, why don't you just come in on the weekend and help me out? I had a full-time job. I had a security company, and I would just come on the weekends and start selling bikes to people, like, because he was, it was kind of it wasn't a one-man show. He had a couple mechanics, but it was like him and a couple mechanics, and then so I started just kind of building up his sales, and and then just started growing, and I kind of grew out of there. I was like, well, I could, everybody kept saying maybe if you just sell bikes full time, because I hated my job. I was a sales manager for a security company. Well, it was my own security company, but I had a partner, so I sold out to him.
I was like, you hated your boss. You're like, wait a minute, I was the boss.
I sold out to him. I couldn't. It was a lot of stress and pressure. We were going two different directions. I wanted to spend money. He wanted to conserve money. We're polar opposites. It worked at first, but it was like I was having so much fun selling bikes. I kind of started just kind of being a slacker there a little bit,
Yeah.
And then, it started really picking up. I guess it was 2020. I was full on kind of doing it on my own. And I sold my company and to him, to my partner, and just started doing it full time. I was just hoping to make enough money my wife's in real estate. So she kind of did pretty good. And I was just trying to make enough money to kind of pay my fair share.
Yeah.
Before I knew it, it was like full-time job. It was
right.
Oh, this is actually something here. I just wanted to make a little extra cash.
How'd you get pulled into this, Rich?
I was a customer of Sean's. Actually, first bike. Well, I should say we bought from him. Got a Ripley for Allie. It was a Ripley AF, and had a friend in town who had gotten one from Sean and really loved it. And
who was that? I forget. Was that Brandon?
Was that?
Who was the friend? I forget who introduced us.
Oh, no, not Brandon. You know who it was. Dylan.
Dylan, yeah.
Dylan. Dylan came up there recently and saw you.
That's a side effect you also get when you get over anything.
But yeah, no, Dylan had recommended we hit up Sean for the Ripley, and it was really cool because we were trying to do a custom build, and it's a tricky thing to do, like and not spend a ton of money or excess money or feel like you're spending more than you should, because a lot of times you either got to buy a frame set and build it up, or you got to buy like whatever Ibis or whoever the manufacturer is, whatever they spec it as. And the cool thing was that we were able to talk to Sean and say, hey, like we'd like to switch this out. We'd like I think we got like an N+1 drivetrain and gold chain, and like we blinged it out. And it was really cool because instead of having to pay for the full build and then buy all the parts and then try to sell the old parts, Sean was able to just kind of like work with us to make it happen without having to kind of do that transformation on our own, which was cool.
Rich,
and
Rich, you live in Chattanooga though.
I do.
And his shop is in Kentucky, Louisville, Kentucky. Mm-hmm. So how does that? How was it that you ended up going? Is that how far you had to go to get like Ibis dealer or?
No. I do have actually a friend who's an Ibis dealer close by. It really had nothing to do with that. It was more just the ability to get the bike at like a really great price and be able to spec it how we wanted to spec it. It really just made a lot of sense for what we wanted to do with that build. And yeah, it was cool. Like, just I was pretty impressed with Sean right out of the gate, and he earned my business for life at that point. Like, it was a good recommendation from a friend for sure.
Right on.
And then eventually down the road, we he reached out to me and talked to me about helping support the channel, Cindy, and our friendship just kind of grew from there. We've done some bike trips together, and
Right on.
It's been cool. It's been good.
Yeah, I remember you got that video with Allie.
Yeah,
and I had no idea he had a YouTube channel or anything, and he sends me the video, and I was like, dang, this is it was like the sound bites and everything were so good. I was like, man, this might be something you might want to have a YouTube channel. And he's like, oh, well, I do. And I was like, oh. I was like, because I've tried to do, people have seen mine. They're really bad. They're usually nice to me. Like, yeah, it's okay. It's kind of like when you tell someone, like, what's she look? Oh, she's got a great personality, or, kind of like what they say about my YouTube channel. But it's not great. But yeah, Rich is just such a pro at it, but had no idea.
It's almost like he does it for a living, right?
Yeah, he had no idea. Like, he knew nothing about it. And that video was a totally different video from anything I've ever done. We made it was like a new bike day thing for Allie, but I did it kind of as like a nursery rhyme, like a Dr. Seuss sort of book rhyme thing.
Oh, nice.
And it's kind of cheesy, but I just wanted to do something different and fun. And
I thought it was pretty good.
I thought it was pretty cool.
Better than anything I could do. But yeah, I guess with the parts and stuff like he was talking about, it was. I think a lot of people like. Even though we have to ship. I sell more bikes in California than I do in Kentucky. So we're shipping 5 to 10 bikes a day on average. Predominantly Ibis. I'm a big Ibis dealer, but we've really picked up with our like Yeti and Pivot. Pivot's been really good lately. I think a lot of times people just buy bikes at bike shops, and it's just like a cookie. It's like you can buy this one or that one. It's like very, everybody wants to like put their own little. Well, I know you. I've seen some of your bikes. You got like that little personal flair on everything.
Yeah.
And it just makes it more fun,
Yeah.
So
when you started,
the same thing that someone else has.
When you started, and you said you opened your shop right in 2020.
2020 was when I was in another shop, 2 bike shops together. Like we both were under the same roof, and that lasted for a year. I was contracting it was called St. Matthews. I was contracting them. I was using this space together, and I was contracting them to build, pack, and ship all my bikes.
So at that point, you were just all online sales. You didn't have like a physical
Well, we had an address. It was that bike shop, but it was both of us in one. And I was selling Ibises, and they were selling like Transition and Giant and stuff like that. And then we sold each other's bikes, and it worked out for a while. But then it kind of just kept growing, and so I was going to get like a warehouse. It was my plan. I was like, I'm just going to a big warehouse. I don't need to have take care of people coming in. And I started at that time, like warehouse space and retail space here was about the same price. So I was like, well, like people love walking in shops and seeing like a whole bunch of cool stuff, right?
Right.
Instead of just maybe like at that particular shop they might have one cool thing every 2 months. It's like, but
so your initial idea was to start selling bikes almost like you were selling, like helping out your friends, just like build custom bikes and ship them out. You weren't thinking in like traditional bike shop manner when you started.
Not. I was just thinking about building the bikes, getting them in, and then before I knew it, we were selling so many bikes. I was like, I have to have a warehouse, And then I was like, well, why not just sell parts and, sell everything, because I'm buying all this different stuff and we're trading.
Yeah, you're carrying the inventory either way, right? So if you're
inventory, and then we're switching stuff out, like XT builds are coming in from Ibis, and then Rich wants XT, but he also wants XTR, and then he wants this wheel and that, so like it was take off, put on, and then just my inventory just started exploding, and there was no space. So and then my idea was like, well, I'll just open a warehouse, like I said, and I'll have all this stuff on the shelf. And I was like, well, if warehouse space and retail space is the same, I might as well just have a bike shop, So I rented a place in a commercial. I mean, it was in a residential shopping center, like a regular bike shop, and people would walk in, they just couldn't believe like how much merchandise we had, because most shops are just waiting for people to come in. Well, I'm half the stuff that's on my shop floor on Monday is gone by Friday, and then it's just it's like going in and out. But it looks like I just have everything, so that helped the local business as well. So I was just using my retail spot as a warehouse, and just making it look a little nicer rather than having it up on shelves, and it was retail.
Right on. So I want to say that somebody told me you're the biggest Ibis dealer in the U.S. Is that true?
We're probably the biggest Ibis dealer in the world. I would think so, maybe. Definitely out of a bike shop. I know competitive and.
Oh, we dropped it. That's it. Well, now it's just you and me, Rich. Thanks to the internet. I guess he kicked the power cable or something. Maybe he didn't pay the bill. So talk to me about like what your experience has been like. Oh, there he is. He's right back. There he is.
There he is.
Guess you paid the bill real quick while
yeah. There's stuff bouncing everywhere. You were saying, I guess we're the biggest. We're pretty with Ibis. A lot of these other companies like this, where we are with Ibis, they're like that with I was saying Jensen and Competitive, like with every brand. They've had a few years jump on me. I'm catching up.
Yeah. So are you trying to build more of a web-based like portal like a Jensen or something like that, or you want to kind of stay in the custom bike lane?
Well, we're doing both. I think the main thing is, just the referral base around the country is so large. Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of happening organically. But now that about a year ago, we went where you could just go online and buy, just like Jensen Competitive and some of the other ones. And that was like a whole nother business. It was like I didn't have to answer the phone every single time and talk to somebody. And it's just like they're just doing it on their own. And then, like what we're doing now, we're getting ready. We're putting together. It should be done in about 6 weeks. We're going on to a whole new, platform. I'm not, obviously you guys know I'm not very good with this, but I have people, so they're putting some stuff together for me that's going to be, I have the idea, and then they're putting it all, put it together.
So new website is what you're talking about.
New website, it's going to be amazing, and then like all the information from all the different distributors and bike companies, all that, just going to feed right in there, and it won't be as much. It'll be more automatic, and then we're going to. We'll have a place where you can go in. Some people some people just want to buy. They don't want to talk to anybody. They want to go in there and pick what they want, buy it, and just do everything while they're sitting at their computer at work. Acting like they're working and they're buying bike stuff.
Right.
And they put the whole thing together, and and then they call me if they have any questions, kind of thing. That'll be automated in about 2 months, where you can just kind of go in and do your own little bike custom build. We're going to make it super simple though. But we like talking to people. Like I have reps, East Coast and West Coast, like East and West Coast. We have obviously sales reps here at the shop, but then we have some on the West Coast as well, and then kind of central located. So for some reason, I guess doesn't really matter where you are. It's kind of like nowadays you can, you're talking on the phone. Doesn't matter if I'm in Kentucky and you're in California. It just adds 2 or 3 days to the when you're going to get your bike.
Yeah. I think in some states it may actually work out as well, because if you don't have distribution in California, I don't think you have to charge California state tax, right?
It's not even that you can't. So
Yeah.
like, I mean, but if I sell you a bike and you're in California, you're supposed to, that's on
Claim
you.
that on your income tax. Yeah, of course. I mean, who doesn't?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you guys can use it as a write-off, I guess. So you probably do, but sales tax, you're supposed to claim it. Who knows? As when it gets to a certain point, you kind of have to get registered everywhere. But it's just how it is. Like I
thought the way that the rule worked was if you didn't have distribution in that state, then it didn't matter. That I mean, I'm speaking from my lawyer chair here in my office, and
it's called interstate commerce. So you can't that has to be excluded from your. I couldn't charge if I was charging people tax, then I just I wouldn't have anybody to pay it to, so it'd be like ripping them off. But you can't.
Right.
But that's
so how does that work then? If like, say Rich lives out here in California like me, or well, he is in a different state than you. So like, and he wants to buy the new Ripmo, which you guys got there in the shop. Didn't you have the Ripmo or the Ripley behind you earlier?
Yeah, the Ripley.
Yeah. So
it all set up on the table just right, and then
then that didn't work out. So if he wants to do that and switch some parts around, how does that work out for pricing for people then? Is that like you guys already know what you're going to resell the takeoff, like let's just say the wheels and the drivetrain or something like that, and you give a credit in that aspect, or how
there's a couple different ways you can do it. You can build it from the frame up. Usually that ends up costing a little bit more. I mean, nowadays every bike can be a frame up build because we have so much inventory, but someone might want to buy like an XT build, and let's just say it's $6,000. They're like, hey, what about if I get an XTR shifter instead of an XT? The difference is $50 retail to retail. So I'm taking the XT off, shelving it, putting the XTR on. Now they're paying $50 more. Doesn't matter to me because I'm coming out exactly the same, and I figured this out just by kind of breaking down. Like if you look at a lot of different bike companies, we might as well use Yeti for an example. If you look at all their different builds and you do the math on it, you say, well, what's it cost to get a XX axis, whatever it would be, a T4, say, and it's $9,000, but a XT, or they don't have XT, but a GX is $6,000. It's like, okay, well, look, you can, for $3,000, I can buy the GX, put everything that the XX has on it, and I still didn't spend $9,000, right?
Right.
So all the other parts are just gravy. So you could do that yourself and keep the parts and sell them, or I can take them off. I can buy it as the GX build and just add the different stuff on. Then I take off the difference of the GX versus the XX, and so on and so forth. So it, like when I first started selling Ibis, they were set up that way. You could kind of just buy whatever you wanted. But as they grew, and I guess we helped grow them, you couldn't do that anymore. So now, I look at what's the best build for me to buy, and that's what I buy, and then I just make it whatever I want later. Because we have every build there is here. So it's like, people are like, do you have the GX build? It's like, yeah, of course I do. All these bikes come in completely unbuilt. It's a little bit more difficult with some of the larger brands like Cannondale, and because the bikes come built. The more boutique brands like Pivot and Yeti and Ibis, they come in completely unbuilt. So
they're not coming with like retail packaging on those parts, though.
Don't have retail packaging, no.
Yeah. So when you're putting that stuff back on the shelf, then it's just kind of like on the shelf as
we have an OEM. Yeah, it's just like we have an OEM wall room. It's just all that stuff's on there. And we have that on our website too. Like you can go to if you don't want the box and you want to save a little bit of money, there's the OEM stuff. So you can get a XT crank and a pretty little box for $175. You can get the OEM for $150. I'm just throwing numbers. I don't know what they actually
Yeah,
are.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, it's freaking legit now. You set it online, everybody's gonna be hitting. I'm looking for the.
Yeah, we have an OEM like page on the website, so we do a lot of stuff through there. Actually, it used to be there was a company. It was I don't know who if they're even around anymore. It was called Blue Sky Cycling back in the early like 2012. 13.
I feel like didn't that company just recently go upside down?
I don't know, but
Rich?
they were buying stuff and OEM, you know.
Yeah, maybe I'm mixing them up with somebody else. I think I'm thinking about the Colorado Cyclist or something like that.
That was one of them too. They were more everything they had was usually retail. Blue Sky was you were buying stuff. It was almost like buying it wholesale, but they were buying it all OEM, which we're kind of doing that now because we're building bikes from scratch. It's like it changes everything.
Right. Rich, as a customer, what was it that you really enjoyed about N+1? Just the ability to like kind of build it out, or
yeah, and I think just the fact that I know pretty much anything I want is going to be there, and if I want to switch something out, it's going to be really easy to do. It's just kind of seamless. And if I'm looking for parts like OEM parts, things that have gotten pulled off of bikes, there's a lot available there, which is really nice.
We try
and I got to thinking about it. I got to thinking about it, and that first Ripley, the first time I came to Sean and bought a bike, that was actually during COVID when bikes were actually like when we were dealing with that shortage, and there were all sorts of places where it was like it was hard to get what you wanted. And people were starting to jack price, like not a lot of people, but I mean, there were people who were starting to jack up some prices because they knew what they had was hard to get.
Build fees. They were charging build fees.
Yeah, exactly.
Retail, but there's a $500 build fee.
Yeah. There was none of that with Sean. Like he had really good inventory. And I got incredible pricing on it in a time when that was unheard of.
Yeah.
And so I think to me, it was more like, I just got this like feeling right off the bat when I talked to Sean on the phone. I was like, man, he's just a really cool dude. Seems to have a whole lot of freaking integrity and treats people right. And, I think that's what most people want is like, you're spending a lot of money on a bike. You want to have someone that like treats you nice and like takes good care of you, make sure you're happy with what you got, helps you like change things. Like, maybe you really like this build, right? Like maybe you love this XT build or this XO1 build or whatever, but maybe it comes with like Code R brakes and you want something different. Maybe you want Code R SCs or maybe you want Shimano XTs or whatever. And, like just being able to make that happen without having to buy it, rip off the old brakes yourself, install the new ones, sell the old ones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, a lot of shops won't like take the ding on the OEM and then sell the OEM for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like most shops are gonna be like, yeah, we'll switch the brakes, we'll sell you these other ones at retail, and then
and they'll give you the ones they took off, and then you have to deal with it. Yeah,
you got to figure it out, and I think what Sean's doing is, one of the same reasons that I've personally started kind of looking more and more at the direct-to-consumer brands is just because at this point I'm so opinionated in what I want to ride that it's either buy a frame and build it up from scratch myself, or like what you're talking about, Sean, is like these builds come and there's just like, I know I don't like those handlebars. I know I don't want that brakes, but I do want that drivetrain. So then it's like you pay that much for the drivetrain, but I still have to switch out the dropper and switch out the brakes. And to be able to have a company that would like Sean's N+1 that you can reach out to and kind of start with that build and then kind of tweak it a little bit. That to me is like, I feel like what you're doing is the way you're going to see shops and the bike companies that are like just more and more get that way.
They're actually, it seems like they're going the other way though, which is good. I hope they keep doing that. But, I think the main thing is I don't really, I don't feel like I personally do anything that's any, well, I shouldn't say that. I try and do the best I can. I guess, when people call in, they seem real, like almost mesmerized that we get off the phone, they're like thanking me. I'm like, I don't know, I'm thanking you. Thanks for calling me, but they're like super happy that they found someone that they could, I guess do that with. I mean, it's like, I guess I'll see it. My buddy Rob called years ago. It was probably 4 or 5 years ago, and it was one of the best compliments I ever had. It wasn't like I was trying to do that, but then once he complimented me on after I heard what he said, it made me feel like, hey, that's what I want people to feel like. We talked for, I don't know, 20 minutes, 30 minutes about bikes, and we figured out what he wanted. He gave me his credit card. He had no idea who I was. I was sitting in my living room, and it was 10 o'clock at night because he lives in Vegas, and, it wasn't real late for him. But he's like, well, because I feel like I've known you my whole life. And it just made me feel super good, when he said that, because I was like, oh, that's I didn't mean to make you feel like that, but I'm glad you feel that way. You felt at home. And, I think that's what's helped kind of people refer business to us is they have a good experience and they send their friends to us,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is different from like, what can people expect from the buying process from you that's going to like be different than them going to their local shop or just jumping onto one of the other websites?
I guess they can get whatever they want,
Yeah.
I'm going to, I try and get people what they want. I mean, if you help people get what, people want you to care about them, and I really care about, my customers. Like if I don't, then, like Rich was saying earlier, during COVID, a lot of people were jacking up the prices. And I was just thinking to myself, like, I'm not going to do that. I mean, obviously I can't discount right now because everything's so super hard to get. But I'm not going to do the, I went to like Oxmoor Toyota here and I was looking at a truck at that time. And it was like, the truck was $40,000. And then it said something about market. It was like an extra 15,000. I'm like, what? Like, what are you? Like,
Right.
This is insane, So people were doing that with bikes too. They were marking them up an extra 10%, and they were adding on like fees and all kinds of stuff. I was like, I'm keeping everything the same, and then the people that are getting this product from me, maybe I'm losing money. Even like some of my distributors were saying, everybody's raising the price. You should make it higher. I'm like. Mm-hmm. I just don't feel like that's the right thing to do. I'm going to sell it for retail and people can buy it and they'll remember that I didn't, jack up the price on them. And,
right.
And it'll build my business. It's like.
Yeah. And I think I feel like that's just like one characteristic that I think that's more like a symptom of just treating people right, no matter what, and like, I know I've talked to you before and you've talked about like having situations where maybe people are like, they're getting like really specific and really want something. It might be like kind of a challenging scenario, but you're always psyched to try to make it happen. And I feel like that's not really the norm. I think a lot of times you kind of bring up a situation where you're like, as a customer, where you want to like get into the nitty gritty and you want to tweak something around and people are like, man, you're causing me a lot of extra work and a lot of extra headache. And it's the opposite mentality for you, like where you're a little bit more keen on actually participating in that and making it happen and seeing the end result and being proud of that. So it's just like this kind of like
cool stuff. I mean, making a cool bike for somebody and then they're super stoked when they get it. Mm-hmm. It's like, I guess if you're, painting a picture and you just kept painting the same smiley face over and over again, like whatever. But, it's just, it's almost kind of, you can make bikes kind of, it's a little bit artistic. It's more fun to build something cool than it is to build something just super basic. And it's not that every single person gets a custom build. I mean, it's probably 15% of the business. But, I mean, I will admit, sometimes people are like, hey, I need this, the TRP with the this and the that, it's like, and you're like, God bless, where am I going to find this thing? I get the phone, I'm just like, it's like, but they don't see that. So I keep all the stressful stuff I'm just like, no problem,
Yeah.
but sometimes it's pretty stressful because you're trying to find all this stuff. And then I'm looking over here at Jonathan, you got to find these for me. And he's like, God bless, we got to make it so, he's next to me here. He always,
I mean, honestly, like even the bike companies are still having issues getting parts and stuff. I know, like, I've talked to several different brands that, maybe they're not having a problem with their frames, but now they're having a problem getting, brakes or something like that. So even though we're kind of like out of that initial like hump of COVID, it feels like there's still quite a bit of residual going on.
There's a little bit of stuff, and then there's people getting ready for changes and stuff. Like we've been doing this one build for about 8 months now, or if you buy an SLX, you get an XT, because I was able to buy a lot of XT components. I mean, like what I was buying the XT stuff for was actually more than what it was costing me to buy SLX components. So I'm buying the SLX from Ibis and then putting XT on it for free. Then I'm sitting on the SLX stuff. Now that's going to run out, and then that'll be value. So it's just like you just have to keep, it's like you're cycling stuff constantly all the time. Mm-hmm. And in the way we did it was like, because of what I was buying the next build up for. Basically, if I threw all the SLX stuff away, it really wouldn't matter, because but I'm not going to do that, obviously. But it makes it, now we could, buy the
send it all to me,
kind of, or you sell it, the OEM stuff. It's like we have stuff that's in boxes on the floor, and then we have a whole other room and basement and upstairs that has all the stuff that's wrapped in, paper.
Yeah. So do you guys have are you only selling through your N+1 Bikes website, or do you have like an eBay store or Amazon store too? Or
we do a little bit with a little bit of stuff on eBay. I have a guy that just kind of handles all that. I don't know where he puts everything, honestly.
Yeah.
I mainly just focus on the bikes.
Right.
But our online guy, Phil is his name. He handles like all the. I don't know where all he has stuff.
Yeah. So
it's
but if people want to look for stuff from you guys,
you just go to the website. Yeah.
Go to your website and it'll be there.
I'm sure we have stuff all over eBay too. I think he's got it set up to where everything's linked to all the different places.
Yeah, so I'm sure.
I could probably buy something on eBay and not even realize I was buying it from myself. Because I can only handle like so much of it. So I try to really deal with people mostly as much as I can. And then whenever I take a break, it's like 3 or 4 days, and I usually go to Downeyville.
Yeah. I just recently saw you out there not too long ago. It was kind of funny bumping into you out there. You like that place?
It's my favorite. Yeah. I usually go there in Santa Cruz. I just got back from Santa Cruz. I went to I just flew into Sacramento to drop off a bike to Joe.
Yeah.
And pick up a bike. And man, I always think of California. Usually I'm either Downeyville, Tahoe, or Santa Cruz, and it's usually the weather is just like amazing. In Sacramento, what's going on? And so it was 111 degrees. I got there and I was like, good God, it's hot here. I drove
Joe's
like
about
2 hours.
10 minutes up the road for me. But we also, this time of year, we just spent a lot of time up in Tahoe riding that area. So it's really easy to get away from the heat. You also came during like a major heat wave. So.
Yeah, it was hot. Yeah.
It was hot everywhere.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was even hot in Whistler. Like I went up to Canada, and like I had packed all shorts, and then my buddy was like, "Oh man, no, dude, you need to have pants because you're going to get up there and it might be 75 at the bottom, but it's going to be like 40 up at the top." And I was like, oh shit. So I had my wife like go grab my pants out of the closet, drive them over to this other person's house that was going to fly up a couple days later. And then get up there. I wore pants like one day and I was like, this is too hot, dude.
Yeah. Well, I guess it depends on where you're from. We're like, I think where me and Rich are from, it's like the weather changes so much. It could be 40 one day and 100 the next, and then the humidity could be. It's all over the place. When I go out west, especially Santa Cruz, because they're used to having pretty much perfect weather all the time. Like I went out to dinner with my Ibis rep, Josh, and his wife showed up with like it was probably 65. She had long sleeves on and a ski vest. I was like, are you are you going through something here? She's like, it's cold. I was like, but it was funny. I was just giving it to them about it, but they always, I'll be wearing shorts and a t-shirt there, and they're dressed all warm. But that's just kind of how it is there. It's like perfect weather. I loved it. Like, that's why I go out there so much. It's like the weather here in Kentucky kind of, some days are really good, but most of the time it kind of sucks.
Yeah. I grew up in Pennsylvania, and I used to always joke that it starts raining on Friday at like 3:00, and then it stops on Monday at like 8 a.m. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, oh wow, that's what you do, huh?
Are you in Sacramento too, or?
Yeah. I'm actually like, you would have drove past my house to get to Joe's, so.
Well, I probably did.
Yeah. We should definitely ride together next time you're in the area. I could show you some things that might not be on the map. So.
We got to see a nice little air show when I was there. It was pretty cool. Jets flying all over the place.
Right on. So, what made you decide to start kind of working with influencers and things like that, like Joe, for example?
Well, I mean, it's just, I feel like when you look at professional, nothing against the professional mountain bikers out there, but, I can name maybe two or three. I think people look to influencers for advice. And you're out there riding, you're going to the festivals, you're doing all the different things, and you're seeing all the products. It's like, man, I wish when I was younger, that how cool. I mean, we had to look at a magazine, that might have been printed a year ago. It's just it's such a informative thing. You guys are out there, putting out information that's real valuable. I mean, YouTube is the go-to. I mean, if I want to know how to put new brakes on my car, and just how do I put brakes on a Tacoma, or it's just right there. Several options, and you can like actually watch somebody do it, just like on a bike. I hooked up with. I started when I started trying to find YouTubers. I just started sending out emails, and then nobody really responded. It was kind of, and then Mo and Hannah were walking. I was at Iva's tent, and Mo and Hannah, I guess 4 years ago, were walking by. They're like, "Hey, what's up?" And I was like, "Hey, I'm the one that emailed you." And they're like, "Huh?" And I'm like, no, it was just kind of funny because they thought it was like the weirdest email they'd ever read. They just kind of disowned it. And then they started looking at my social media and stuff like that, and they realized that I had no clue what I was doing. They helped me out a lot. So that's where I kind of figured that out. It was like obvious. I'm watching YouTubers to figure things out. So it's like, and like they're like, go to Salt Cycles or go to this place or go to that place. I was like, I want them to. Everybody, it's like, tell them to come to me. I'll hook them up. This is like the way to do it. So yeah. How did I get in touch with? Oh, Brian Gong hooked me up with Joe, and then of course everybody, all you guys you'll have like your own little crew of YouTubers, and you'll all talk and stuff, right? Is there like a YouTube little inner circle, right? What's it called? Someone tell me that. Is that secret? Is that top secret?
No. There's a Slack group that we all chat on.
Slack group. That's it. I couldn't remember.
Most of us do.
Yeah.
But no, that's funny. Rich, how did that like kind of happen with you and Sean, from you changing from a customer to more of a influencer kind of marketing his brand?
He was sending me business. So anyway, before I even knew he was a YouTuber.
Yeah. All along you were working with a YouTuber, you didn't even know it.
Didn't even know.
Yeah. I mean, it's just it was super easy choice for me because it wasn't like somebody approached me out of the blue that I didn't know anything about or didn't have any experience with, right? Like this is somebody who I'm already have become a customer of because of just purely the customer experience, nothing else, right? And so when he came to me and said, "Hey, like, what do you think about working together?" At the time, I had kind of had it in my head that I wasn't going to do anything like that. I was actually pretty resolved to not doing anything like that at all, to not working
Yeah.
with anybody. But Sean made a
Because
lot of sense.
your channel initially for you was just like a creative outlet
Mhm.
outside of, so people that may not be familiar with you or your channel, that you actually, you're a documentary filmmaker, and you're doing this video kind of production stuff on your own time for your real gig.
Mhm.
And the Semi Sendy channel was just like, you're kind of like, I want to have fun doing this and I like bikes, right?
It was
Is that
my
a good
COVID.
synopsis?
It was my COVID project. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so, but then, it just kind of made sense. It was like, well, I already send people to Sean because I trust him and I know he's going to take great care of anybody that goes to him. So I'm sending my friends and people that I know personally to him. Why would I not? Why would I have any like? Why would I not consider working with him otherwise?
Yeah.
And the great benefit was that um, it was really nice because I could then get more bikes in for to ride and test out and try and like have experiences on.
Yeah.
I was able to get, you know, um, different products that I wanted to test out and try. Like maybe I want to check out the new Fox forks or whatever, the new RockShox, um, you know, Vivid or something like that.
Yeah.
Like I can get a hold of Sean, like get it in at I can get a discounted price from him, and that makes it more reasonable for me to get those products and test those products out.
Yeah.
Which is nice because if I can do that, like if I'm spending my money on something, um, whether it's discounted or not, you're still spending your money on it, and it's still your choice what you have to say about that product.
Yeah.
And not that like when you work with a brand directly, it's not like they tell you, or not like you don't have autonomy in what you say,
Yeah,
but
you still have a like at least if you have some kind of morality to you, you have a like a small bias to like say something productive and not just be like, oh, I'm gonna shit all over this,
yeah,
like.
yeah. And
And
I mean,
I
honestly,
think that's fair.
yeah,
Look
and
at both
I think that's
views. Yeah.
totally, yeah. And I think too, like, I mean, you're the better brands out there. Like, if you do work with them directly, they're actually pretty cool about you being, I tell people straight up all the time. I'm like, look, I'm gonna say exactly what I think. Like, I'm not gonna like if there's something that I think is a downside, I'm gonna talk about it.
Yeah.
But I'm always going to be fair about it. You know what I mean? I'm always going to be objective about it. But it's nice being able to work with Sean and just not have any of that. Like,
Yeah.
there's also that ability to get something. And then, like, if it takes me 6 months or it takes me a year of riding on it before I want to talk about it, that's fine. There's no time,
Yeah.
constraint. It's all on my own schedule, which is really
Yeah.
cool.
What you're
Yeah.
saying is very similar to kind of my own journey as far as YouTube goes. I mean, like Project 321, I used their hubs, but I was their customer long before I was a YouTuber,
Yeah.
and it just so happened is the same kind of thing where it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm telling everybody already, buy hubs from them. So why wouldn't I like help out? Why wouldn't I tell a bigger group of friends?
Yeah.
And I think that at least for me has been the way that I've pretty much come about all the things that I like, any of the companies that I work with. It's usually through like, I'm really impressed with them and I'm already like sold on them, rather than like, it's not like some company comes to me out of the blue and they're like, hey, do you want to ride our handlebars? I'm like, sweet, show me the money, I'm in. And
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
for me, it's like, I already ride your handlebars and I want to like work
Yeah.
with you guys, or something like that.
Exactly.
That
It's
shows
just such a
through. You
it's
can
such a
tell.
great like relationship like that, and like I mean, I just to give an example, um, I don't know, like a few weeks ago, I called and talked to Jonathan, who's a great guy, works for Sean. Usually, if I need to get some parts just on order, I'll just give him a quick ring. And I had some like pretty specific things I was after that I knew probably weren't in stock.
Right.
But I had some curiosities. If any, I don't think either of you guys follow World Cup downhill, but the U.S. is doing quite well this year, and one of our local guys, Dakota Norton, is absolutely killing it on the World Cup scene. And he has probably the most unique cockpit setup of any racer out there. I can't really think of any time someone's had as high of a rise bar setup as him. His stack is really high. He's got really high rise bars and puts him in a really different position. So anyways, I was like, I kind of want to mess around with that, see if there's something to that. And I could do that. I called up Jonathan. I got like a Renthal, very specific, like 31.8 fat bar, aluminum, 40 mil rise bar. Got a stem for it, and put the stack up high on it. And I just got done riding that for 2 weeks in snowshoe. And
are we allowed to talk about that, or is that like a video? We gotta wait for the video.
No, I don't know. Maybe I'll do a video on it one day, but we can talk about it.
What do you think?
I loved it. I thought I was gonna hate it. I thought that it was gonna be awkward and silly, and I thought I was gonna hate it. And I was like, I can always bring the stack height down and still use those bars or whatever. Yeah. But it was really, really weird when I first got on it. But I adapted to it way faster than I thought I would. Within a handful of laps, I was like, this is pretty sick. Like, this is very different.
So it's kind of like that, like a different way of going about it, but like that stem that guy was doing that was kind of super high.
The raised reverse stem.
Yeah.
Probably what you're talking about. Yeah. There's and like, not doing the reverse thing that he's got going on, but having that like really high bar setup.
Yeah, I've seen some other people starting to do that with like rise bars that are like way higher rise bars than
it's a trend for sure.
Yeah.
I think Joby must have got that idea from you. Joby works here. He's one of my guys on the team here, but he also races a lot of enduro. He's really good. And the other day he's 6'6", so he has a extra large HD6. And I saw him like messing with his bike. He's like, I clocked that. I was like, but he had these like silver. They were so tall. I think they might have been 45 or 50. It was ridiculous. Yeah. But then he actually likes it. He's digging it. That's why I was like smiling when you started talking about it. I was like, yeah, I bet he got that from you. Or saw it somewhere.
He maybe also just got it from Dak.
Might have been.
Yeah. I had a really good conversation with Micah Van Horn. He's like the SRAM Southeast rep. You probably know him, Sean. But he was actually telling me that he had been playing with that quite a bit. Like, he's up there, he lives down the road from Dakota. They're both up by Windrock. And he said they've been both doing that for years, like bringing that stack up, that rise up, and playing with the body positioning with that. And it was funny because we got on the lift together last weekend at the race at Snowshoe, and there's my bike. It's a 170 mil travel enduro bike next to his downhill bike, and my bars were like dead even with his. And he was like, man, what do you have? What are you running on that? Because I run a really, really high setup. And I told him, he said his was 7 mil shorter than, like, lower than Dax. And Dax is insane. It's like 70 mil rise bar. Like, he pretty much needs a crossbar on there now.
Wow.
But he's running a 70 mil rise so that, like, when he's down in the cockpit, his chin piece on his helmet doesn't actually
attach to the bar.
Yeah. So it's like he has the chin clearance over the bar. That's why he's got the 70. So he brought his stack down and put the 70s on there.
Makes me think of that specialized roll, like that, step through with the big BMX, old style BMX bars on. It's real comfortable. I couldn't imagine riding it downhill though, but
yeah,
I'm going to try it now.
Yeah, I would imagine from your perspective, Sean, you get to probably kind of clock in on the trends a little bit more as well, just because you guys aren't just selling the bikes kind of as they come retail. You're seeing what people are changing to, and you probably also catch that like geographically as well, huh?
Yeah, there's a lot of little changes here and there. It's And sometimes I get behind it. Like sometimes it gets ahead of me. Like I'm like people. It's kind of funny because like the Ibis just came out, and I'm really supposed to know everything about Ibis. I was so mad. I didn't have any idea that the Ripley frame and the Ripmo frame were exactly the same frame. Guys asked me, when's the new link going to be available at Ibis? I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't even know what you're saying. And I was just trying to imagine what he was talking about. So I'm answering all these questions that were nothing. He's like, no, I'm talking about the new link. And I was like, to make the Ripmo the Ripley. I was like, there's never going to be a link to make a Ripmo a Ripley. That's just never going to happen.
He's like, no, it's on the website.
And then I was like, I started thinking about it, and I texted my rep, and I was like, there's no chance that there's a link that's going to make Ripmo a Ripley, is there? Yeah. He's like, but we're not going to sell the suspension. We're just going to sell the link. I'm like, oh.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Maybe y'all need to go see a doctor or something. Like, but no, I think it's going to be kind of cool. At first, I was like, this is so silly. It doesn't make sense. But if you look at a lot of bikes, they're very similar. Like if you look at the SB120 and the SB140, you can really, I'm starting to think that I'm going to have to get my measuring tape out on that one, Yeah. But I'm pretty certain the rear triangle is exactly the same. But Gonger would know, I'm sure.
That's not super uncommon. I mean, there's there's a lot of bikes that'll share the same front triangle and whatnot. And
this one's the front and rear, but it'll be kind of cool. It would be, I guess you could just have a couple forks and a couple shocks and you got two bikes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's really interesting to think about. It's taking like the whole flip chip idea. They're going to do that next, right? You just like take the link out and flip it over.
Well, they did do that on this one. It's got the 27.529 flip chip.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting. I didn't realize that. We were talking about this earlier, actually, before we started the show, and I didn't realize that was the case when we were talking about that. So basically, with the cost of this link, let's just assume the link's going to be like $500. That would just be my guess. I'm just basing that out of like
$45.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Are you serious?
It's going to be $45.
Oh wow. Well, that's way cool. Cheaper. I was like thinking like Cascade link price, $3, $4, $5.
No, because everything else works the same. It's just the link that holds the shock. One's longer than the other. Actually, Rocky Mountain had it too. If you wanted to go from an Instinct to an Altitude on their higher end models, the carbon, it was called an MX mount. Like Ibis is doing it in the rear shock mount, and Rocky Mountain for the Instinct. If you take the forward shock mount off and put the longer one on, or I guess it would be the shorter one, then you can essentially, and then change your fork. You went from an Instinct to an Altitude.
Interesting.
And it's just like a little metal piece that screws into the top tube of the frame.
Yeah.
The bottom of the top tube.
So are you going to be able to get the link either way? Like you can get the Ripmo link or the Ripley link?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you seeing?
So if you want a Ripmo, but you like the Ripley colors better, this is where my brain
you can turn into a Ripley mode.
Yeah.
Or if one's like out of stock, which that happens. That's Ibis here. It's one's going to be out of stock, so we'll just get the link, and then
you could sandbag your friends. You could be like, "Man, I'm super cool, just like hitting the bike park on this Ripley,
right?
Under bike, man."
Yeah. No, I'm only 120. That's it, dude. They're like, but that's a dual crown fork. You're like, no.
Well, you can make the Ripley. It's kind of cool because now the Ripley is 130, 140. So obviously you can go all the way up to a 170. So I'm thinking about on mine. I just built it with a 34, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to do a 36 150 with a 130 rear. And it'll kind of be like my go-to bike. I'm going to try it like it is first. I always think you should try a bike like the engineer designed it.
Yeah.
And then experiment. Then on my Ripmo, when I build one of the new Ripmos, because we only got, Ibis is notorious for the first, they're kind of like, it's almost like the bar that allows 1,000 people in, but they only let 500 come in, and then there's a line out the door. Then that's the bar everybody wants to go to, So the first shipment came in, I think, for the whole world, they had 300 bikes, which It's not that many bikes.
No, especially not when you have like 19 different people like on YouTube, telling everybody about how great it is.
Yeah, the whole world. I mean,
bike,
I think each rep got 100 bikes, and there's 3 of them at IBIS. So I was complaining. I was like, he told me we're going to get like 17. I was like, what do you mean 17? I was like, we sell 100 bikes a month. We have to get, I was freaking out. He's like, well, we're only getting, 300 bikes for the whole world, Canada, everywhere. So we ended up with 20 on the first batch. And I think the second one.
So it's safe to say that they're still having some production issues then.
I think they just don't overproduce right off. That's just their thing. It should level out. I mean, because it'll level out in December. We got a big shipment coming in August. We got 20 on this first one, which is probably about as many as anybody's ever gotten. But the second one will be a little bit better. And then I'm not sure about this whole extra medium thing. I think it's freaking everybody's brain out a little bit because they have small, medium, extra medium, large, and extra large. And it would have been so much easier, and I wouldn't have to explain it and compare all these numbers so much if they just had small, medium, large, extra large, double X. Like that's normal stuff right there. It's like keep it simple. So essentially the extra medium, the numbers on it are actually the same, actually bigger than last year's large, the extra medium. So now the large is an extra large, and the extra large is basically a double X. But
at least they didn't go the specialized route and just give it a bunch of numbers that mean nothing.
Well, they did it on the HD6, but they're going to switch it back. The HD6 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what the specialized does, that numbering thing. And every time somebody's like, "Oh, I'm an S3," I'm like, I don't know what that means, dude. Like,
well, they changed it too. From 19 to 2000, their S3 was an S4. Like they changed it. They made it. So it's like now everybody's super confused. But
yeah, I don't know. Maybe we need an industry standard on sizing next. So just make it real difficult.
Boost, super boost, non-boost, triple boost.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like the super boost thing's taken off, huh?
13 speed. You ready for that?
Yeah, I know. I saw Shimano has the patent in for that, so I would assume between that and they have a bunch of wireless stuff that's allegedly coming from some patents that were posted online as well. So that to me is not the 13 speed. I'm like, I don't understand why, but the wireless thing to me for a long time, I personally was thinking that Shimano was just not even going to do wireless and they were going to like just drop some new like gearbox that was going to blow everybody's mind, because it just seemed weird to me that they kept being like holding true on Di2. It's like, no, it's wireless. It's like, no, it's not wireless. There's wires everywhere,
Yeah. The battery. You always forget to buy the battery that goes in the seat post for the road bikes anyway. But yeah, I think Shimano just waits until they're pretty sure something's going to work. I feel like Axis came out maybe a little too quick. I love SRAM to death. I probably sell more SRAM than anything, but the first Axis, I feel like it kind of had
some bugs.
Some bugs. Yeah.
I think that the transmission personally, and I know Rich has gone back and forth on Axis, so I can't remember exactly what his newest opinion is, but the transmission for me is like, man, I feel like it's the best drivetrain I ever had. The only downside is that it doesn't shift fast, which I feel like can possibly get worked out in the future, but honestly has not been as detrimental to me as I would have expected.
Well, it doesn't shift fast because it won't shift. Like the old SRAM shifted fast, but it would shift when it wasn't supposed to shift. So this stuff shifts only when it's supposed to. So that's why it doesn't, jump all over the place. But Shimano has somehow figured out how to make things shift fast and still you can shift under load. It just shifts, know. But, I like not having all the extra cables and stuff. We just built up a mountain. We're a Orbea dealer now. We just got one of the mountain bikes in, like I can't even pronounce it, but it's supposed to be the fast one. And it's got the double lockout. It's all cables, and it's all the cables go down into the, it's all like they go through the bars down into the frame. wow, it's a lot of cables. You know, it's like it's a lot to do. Like, and I'm thinking if I'm riding this, the XT guys love that stuff. If I'm like riding this, I'm gonna be dropping my saddle, but I'm really gonna be locking out my suspension, and then it's just too confusing. You know, I love the fact that like 2 buttons, you know, I'm good. Up, down, both sides. Yeah. You know, I hate lockouts. I hate them. But
I've talked to a few guys recently that have been trying that stuff where it's like changing your suspension for you, and surprisingly, people are actually liking it more than
they thought,
than they would think. Yeah, it just blows my mind that it would be smart enough to know to like how to make it, you know, good for climbing when it is, and like how it can like know that, hey, this guy just hit a drop and now let's make it squishy. You know what I mean? Like,
does it really know, or is it really just all in our head anyway? You know,
yeah.
It's like, I wonder if we could just like, if you just told somebody like, this is going to be in the exact place you need it every single time. But you just put a regular fork on there and put some little fake boxes, and then everything's, you know, they're like, it's working great. You know, it's like, this is the best. I haven't tried it yet. Flight attendant seems pretty cool. I did have the Fox version for a while on my pivot.
Live valve.
Yeah. It works on the Tundra really well. You know, that thing is, but I'm not sure on my bike. I never was sure if it was working or not. Bike felt great, but the ones I rode that didn't have it also felt great. So it's kind of not sure.
Yeah. My assumption is that like, and this is just me rubbing the crystal ball, you know, or in my own way, nothing that I've ever heard from anybody, but my guess was the reason that that SRAM named their drivetrain the transmission is because ultimately they want to be making an automatic transmission that's like kind of working in cahoots with all that other stuff. And I think there is some kind of thing to that nature already. I don't think it shifts gears though. Do you know that, Rich?
Yeah, it shifts the e-bike stuff shifts gears.
Yeah. It can do it like it can shift gears while you're not pedaling.
Yeah.
So you can coast shift, which is actually pretty cool.
Yeah, that's the plus of the gearbox too. That was one of the things that was nice about that, is you just slam through gears where you don't have to pedal. I really personally thought that the gearbox would be taking off more than it has in the last few years, especially with e-bikes coming out. I really thought the gearbox was just going to blow up.
Is it a weight thing, you think? I mean, because it's so crazy how people still today, you know, how much does that weigh? And I'm like, it pedals really well. You know, it's like, I don't know.
It's mostly like efficiency. It's got a lot of drag in it. But you know, when you consider an e-bike being able to compensate for that, but it is going to, you're not going to get as efficient battery use when you're using a gearbox on an e-bike.
You're right back on. Hang tight.
Yeah, it's interesting. Have you ridden many gearboxes or any, Rich?
I've ridden one, but I have not ridden many. Just one.
I haven't ridden many either, but the one that I did ride, it blew my mind on how well it like tracked the ground and stuff like that, because of that weight being all in the middle. And then I just personally have I just don't understand why we're still riding bikes with derailleurs the way that they are. It doesn't make any sense in terms of mountain biking, like hanging this like integral part of your drivetrain off the back wheel closer to the ground. At the very least, I don't understand why it's not like pointing up instead of down. Or there was some company that recently, I think it was like last year or the year before, they kind of put their derailleur in the rear triangle more, which like makes sense to me. Like that at least makes sense. Like get it out of like banging it off of rocks. That's the part I just.
What about that inner hub thing? I mean, that got too much drag, you think? I mean, they've been making that for years. It's been out forever. I mean, it's usually like 3 speeds or 6 speeds or something, but
I think it's a lot of ratio limitations, like as far as like the size of it goes.
That would be kind of cool, though. You wouldn't have to worry about it.
Then you end up with a bunch more weight then too in the back instead of
that. Yeah, and Robert, that's one thing you mentioned, the weight distribution, even which is really good. Like having that like centered around the the bottom bracket is great because that's like where everything pivots on the bike. So it helps with stability, but also, you know, you're looking at sprung versus unsprung mass back on the, you know, in the rear triangle. And so removing some of that weight out of there actually helps the suspension performance as well.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like when I rode that zeroed, it felt like I was riding a bike with a keel. You know, like it just turned so well. I never felt so planted and so comfortable on a bike before. Like, it just blew my mind.
Yeah.
And I really expected that to take off more. And I think this year they finally have like some kind of wireless shifting now, so it kind of gets you out of that grip shift zone, which to me I think was just weird. And you know, we're all trained to push these buttons over years and years and years, so the grip shift thing kind of was strange. So I thought, like, with that you'd really start to see it more, and between that and the e-bikes I really thought it was going to pick up. But yeah, who knows where we end up at this point.
I think it'll start with e-bikes. I'm super excited about that. That DJI takes off because
Oh man,
like
tell me that wasn't like a bomb dropped in Eurobike, huh?
They're probably like, oh, everybody's like, oh shit, like what? It's like because like it seems like they just everything they come out with, it's better than the first. Like I'm hearing like the GoPro versus the what's the DJI called?
Osmo, I believe. Yeah.
Osmo. I have the little Osmo thing that like follows you around like the handheld one, but there's one I ordered one from
the Action.
Yeah, it's like the Osmo Action.
Action 4, yeah.
Yeah.
And it seems like the videos may be better.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, they're at least on par with each other. And I think in the past that GoPro's always had some kind of edge. And it wouldn't be like totally, but it would always be like, oh, well, they're better at night, or they're like better audio, or they have, you know, more whatever, you know. But it always seemed like it was something that like really kind of set them apart. And it feels like those two are actually now like solid competitors for each other.
And the microphone, the built-in microphone where you can just type, you know, that seems like that's easier, isn't it?
I don't have a lot of experience with the DJI. Do you, Rich?
No. Yeah. No, I have been working with them with the bike. I had a prototype of their e-bike last fall, or actually like last summer, late summer. Had it for a couple months. And they did we did talk about the cameras, but I wasn't interested in doing camera stuff on the channel.
So I don't know if you could talk about it or not. I'm sure you had to sign a billion freaking NDAs and stuff, but like, were they working with manufacturers ahead of time outside of their own? Because that's my thought process. Is they dropped this at Eurobike. If that's just them now telling these other bike companies that they can use it, you're looking at least probably 2 years before anybody has it.
I couldn't answer that. I was never involved in that.
Yeah.
All I did was
ride it.
Was just ride the bike and spend some time on it and give them feedback on it.
So now that the cat's out of the bag, how'd you feel about that?
It was very promising. I was pretty excited that they were getting into the industry, just because everything I have used of theirs has been really high quality, and they've always seemed to really put a lot of thought into their products. And it was really cool because like right out of the box, just even the prototype that I had, the display on it was like really caught my attention right out of the gate. As somebody who I don't wear like a watch, like a Garmin watch or anything like that. I'm pretty bad about, I don't have a bike computer, but I would like to have like the ability to get some information, some data on there, be able to like record rides and stuff without even having to use anything else on my phone. And I thought that was really cool that they had done a lot of integration there.
Oh, they did? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's pretty
sweet.
So
like map your ride and shoot that up to Strava or something like that.
Yeah, and I'm not sure like what all it's going to be able to do. I mean, they didn't really have everything, like all of
Working
the
at that point. Yeah.
yeah, like the app done and everything for it yet. But just cycling through it, it looked really pretty promising. It was really nice. It was easy to know what was going on with the bike in general. There was an auto mode on it that was wild. I mean, I've never felt anything like that with an e-bike, where it was kind of automatically sensing what was going on and changing modes,
Oh wow.
like changing torque and whatnot. And that was pretty cool. Um,
I think the
yeah,
weight versus the amount of power that they were getting
it was so
is
light.
just like
It
unbelievable.
was stupid light. The one I had, it was a really nice looking bike too. It was all black, like raw carbon. And man, everybody that saw that thing was like, "What is that?" I was
You're
like,
like, it's nothing. You did not see anything.
"It's like I can't really tell you what it is."
Yeah.
I was like, "You'll find out in about a year, I guess." But
Right
yeah, it
on.
was. I will say what was, I think, probably the biggest takeaway from that experience with them. Um, in my, in fact, I just left my old job a year ago. I worked as an application engineer in the like research and development field, and spent a lot of time working with uh, um, like the craziest R&D labs out there in the world, like whether it was Tesla or NASA or whoever. Like, spent a lot of time in these labs working with a lot of these engineers, and I can tell you that the guys and girls I worked with in China in their R&D lab, they were top notch. Like, they were so um they were so interested in just making the best product that they could and really gleaning as much information off of me as possible. I think we spent 3 hours in our main interview. Um
Yeah,
and
the one interview that I watched with them and the EMTB guy on YouTube was like they were saying that they were already on their like 10th iteration of it before
yeah,
they decide to even release it. So I mean, it sounded like they really tried their best to work out all of the kinks and everything like that before they got
yeah,
to the point of actually releasing.
yeah.
That reminds me, Sean, from your perspective, I'm curious to what you're seeing as far as what's trending in your sales. When I go out to the local trail systems, I'm starting to feel like if I'm on an analog bike, I'm a minority. Are you seeing that in your sales as well?
I would have never thought that, honestly, but it's been insane. Like, it's just like if you ride one, you want one. Yeah, like it used to be like sell 100 bikes to every one e-bike, and now it's everybody wants an e-bike. It's been it's still not, it's not even 50-50 yet, but it's coming, and they just keep getting better and better. I've been riding one. I try to like force myself to ride a regular bike. It's just so fun. Because I raced motorcycles for a while. It's kind of somewhere in between. It's like I think it's funny when people say I'm not old enough for that yet. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
if you rode e-bikes with me, you better not wait till you're too old, because you're going to be in trouble. But because you're going fast all the time, and then the whole fitness thing. I guess if you're out there driving Miss Daisy, you're not really. You might as well just be sitting on the couch. But if you're out there pushing it as hard as you can, like there was 7 of us that went to Downeyville last time I saw you. I'd sent my Crestline out there, and we were all on e-bikes. Everybody was pretty freaking tired at the end of the day every time. And it's like you can just, because you're pedaling all the. I like what's the guy's name? It was a really good video. The Lone Ranger, is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, Lone Ranger. He was talking about the one thing that he loves riding the e-bike, but he was talking about the one thing that he missed was like the like when you're riding up a hill and you're just kind of sitting there chilling, getting a reset, and then you're flying down the hill. Where on an e-bike it's almost as much fun going up the hill as it is down the hill, you know, because I'm jumping stuff going uphill, you know, it's like you're just flying along. It's so fun. But then there's sometimes where you just want to, like, you know, just ride your bike, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found in my experience so far, I still like that pain and pleasure of the analog better. But what I did notice, you know, my friends and I doing is, like, you start out saying, oh, well, that's like a good e-bike ride, that like place X. And then you go to like the next place and you're like, oh, this place is a really good e-bike ride. And then you start thinking about it and you're like, dude, every ride, every trail system,
It doesn't matter where you are. Yeah.
Is a good e-bike ride. You know,
you never think Downeyville would be a good e-bike ride, but I'm there and Greg's like, you know, I keep telling Greg at Downeyville up there, so I was like, man, you kind of ruined me, because like I went there and I was perfectly fine riding an analog bike, whatever. And he's like, well, just take my e-bike here. I'm not, you know, just take this for the day. And I came back and then, like, I was like, yeah, can I be all right if I take it tomorrow too? Would that be all right? It's like, then before I knew it, I'm riding e-bikes, you know, and Downeyville, because it's like you can just sit there and
I mean,
bigger rides,
trails that are real hard, you know, like all the way up to the, you know, you just, like me and Marcel that day, I don't know, man, we probably rode. I could have never done it on a regular bike, the places he took me. He lives there and he's like, took me all over the place. I was like, you know.
Yeah, I know, like getting out to like Big Boulder and stuff like that, those are some pretty legitimate climbs if you're on an analog bike. And you definitely can make that easier. And I know I've done a ride where we went way out and came down Lavazola, which kind of brings you into the bottom of Third Divide. And I remember as I was doing that ride thinking that it would be more fun on an e-bike, just because the climbs were like so punchy that you couldn't like with the e-bike, you'd be able to carry your speed down and up. Whereas on the analog bike, I would go fast down and then it would like, just like, you know, dogging up this super punchy little climb and then, you know, doing that over and over again. And on an e-bike, I felt like I would have been able to keep it more like enjoyable altogether, you know?
Well, Joe met me there one day and we went down because all the snow, you know, you remember how it was, you couldn't get everywhere, but I like to ride the big boulder stuff, and Polly Creek is like pretty gnarly and rough. So we went down there and we're like, well, let's go up Polly Creek. So we rode all the way up, back down, turn around, back up, back down. It was just like crazy. Yeah. It was super fun.
We went up Polly Creek one time before that.
Oh, when we thought we lost, when Jonathan, we thought he did that again this time. Again, everybody lost.
Jonathan fell off a cliff somewhere.
Yeah, they were all out on like e-bikes this last time, and they just decided they would adventure. You can't go on adventures in Downeyville. Like, you can't just follow your nose there. You know, like you could just be out there for a week. You know, it's like. Right. And then you're on an e-bike when the battery goes dead, like you got to pay attention, you know, like
shit gets real then.
Yeah. You know, you might
we did. I remember doing, I think that was like the first time I spent a lot of time on an e-bike was one of those Downeyville trips a couple years ago. And
were still fun. It
was like
heavy and
we were on that Bullet, that Santa Cruz Bullet, which is like big old monster truck bike. But I remember going out that morning and before we even did the ride that day, Hunter and I went up. We climbed all of the classic Downeyville downhill, turned around and came back, plugged the bikes back up, charged them up, and then we all went up. We still got shuttled with the e-bikes, but then we went up and we went all the way out Big Boulder, up to Rusty Tank, and back around. And I can't remember how many miles we did that day, but it was insane. And was still able to ride the next day. I think the next day is when I met up with you, Robert, and we went out.
Where did y'all go when you guys? I think that's where I went. I think that's where Marcel took me some really cool places.
I took him out. We went to Mount Huff, which is about an hour from Downeyville, and then in between Downeyville and Mount Huff is Mills Peak, and we rode that as well.
Yeah, we did. He took us to. We got to Mills Peak when we were about 20 miles in, maybe 20. We were probably closer to 25 miles in. when we got that's the like the white tower, right? And
yeah,
then,
it's like up on top of
and then it's like a 9-mile downhill.
yeah.
That was the end of our day right there. It was super fun.
Yeah, that's my favorite downhill run in our area. I think it's,
I like
I personally think it's better than Downeyville.
I'd agree. I thought it was amazing.
Yeah,
It was like the perfect blue flow tech trail.
yeah.
I want to go back there again, like, and not do it at the like
end of the day
where I'm on the red line on the battery, and I'm like,
yeah.
Because like my he's like a bike tour guide. He would always he's from Venezuela, I think, and he would always say it's just a little bit farther, like just right up the road, bro. And then like
the Mountainese is strong with that guy.
Yeah, his math is not right. It's like so far, but yeah, that was pretty awesome seeing all that because Greg had been telling me about it, and but yeah, I don't know how to find it. I have to.
So Sean, when you first got started with N+1, you said you were really into IBIS. How did that happen?
I don't even know. Yeah, I do. Let's see. My dad turned 13 years ago. When was the first Santa Cruz Tallboy that came out?
Shoot,
it was 2012, right? I remember. I think I took my dad to Santa Cruz because he wanted. We went down. We flew into San Francisco and we kind of drove through Santa Cruz to Big Sur and Monterey and all that. And he wanted he said for his 80th birthday he wanted to go see the redwoods and all that kind of stuff. So I took him out there, and I stopped by. I think it was called Just Another Bike Shop or something like that.
All right.
A friend of mine told me to try out the Ibis. He's like, you like the Santa Cruz, but he said there you can ride the Ibis and the Santa Cruz, and I did that, and it was like a Mojo 2 or something, and and I started I was like, well, I kind of like this, and then I ordered one. It was before the Ripley had come out, Ripley V1, and I kept trying to get the Ripley and kept trying to get it, and then it was my buddy a friend of mine owned another bike shop back then, and I was like, we need to get this, set you up with Ibis so I can get this bike. And he's like, all right, that's fine. But he would never do anything like that. So I was like, well, I'll just set you up. I'll just pretend like I work here and I'll get it all set up, And so I set him up as an Ibis dealer just so I could buy one.
Right.
And then I started buying them and then started selling them. And it just kind of got rolling.
So now you have several brands. You have Ibis and you said
Ibis, Yeti, Pivot, Orbea, Rocky Mountain, Envy, Cannondale. What else do we have? Jeeps.
What makes you decide what brands that you have?
I don't know. This is kind of what's popular, kind of what I like and what I see other people kind of digging. I don't obviously.
I find it surprising that you go to Downeyville all the time and you don't carry Santa Cruz though.
Yeah, I guess I could go there. So Santa Cruz, when I was starting to get rolling pretty good, I reached out to them and I wanted to sell Santa Cruz, and they were going to do it, and then they just gave it to somebody else locally, like they changed their mind on me, and so a little time went by, and I kind of forgot and forgave because I still wanted Santa Cruz again. And they did it to me again.
Oh my!
Like they were gonna open me up as a Santa Cruz dealer, and then they just, we're gonna give it to this guy instead. Well, both times they gave it to the other guy. I think they went out of business. Didn't work out too good for them. But so I was like 3 times the charm, right? So about a year, I don't know, probably 10 months ago, I was like, well, there's no way they're gonna turn me down. So they had it all set up, and I got on a conference call, and we're all good. And then one night I was like, man, Ibis treated me when I was buying a bike a month from them. They treated me the same way they treat me right now.
Yeah.
Santa Cruz is just kind of, and now they're owned by the company, that Pond company or whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, it always just not. They didn't treat me the way I wanted to be treated, but like how I want to treat my customers,
Right.
So how is it going to be like dealing with this company on our, so it was like 1:00 in the morning. I was like, I don't think I want them. And I emailed the guy at like 1 a.m. I just figured he would see it the next day or something.
Yeah.
And he like emailed me back that night, like, what the heck? What do you mean? And so, but I'm talking to him again. We're thinking about it. It was just to get screwed over twice, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, I can totally understand where you're coming from. It wouldn't, I mean, I wouldn't put it like, hold it against you for
I don't know that they're as good as they used to be. Are they?
Yeah.
You know?
I think that they still make really good bikes. Personally, I think they make really good bikes, but I don't know if they're like the bang for your buck is as good as it used to be. Like, I feel like what I would say the word on the street is that they're really expensive for the build that you get.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. I saw that in the, picking them up, Specialized too. I like, I've thought about, people have asked me like, would you pick up Trek? I was like, I think I probably would. Trek's been around forever, and I've been part of a Specialized dealer before, and everybody kind of hates them. But I never really had any issues. I thought they did a great, fine with it. I guess they did some stuff to their dealers recently or something, but I think they've changed their mind on that now and kind of, said they were sorry. Maybe, I don't know, but I like the bikes. I don't like them as much as Yeti, Ibis, Pivot. I don't think they're quite there. These smaller companies seems like they can do the research, and they design things, and then it seems like the bigger companies maybe even copy off of them. It takes them so long to for Specialized to make a change. Like Ibis can make a change in a very short period of time. For Specialized to change something, and even some of the brands I have, like Cannondale, those bikes are built overseas, they're boxed overseas, and then they sit in that box until we get them. And we open them up and we're like, oh, hey, this XYZ or ABZ part is messed up. Oh, well, we'll give you a credit. Just order something that's similar. And you're like, just send me the part. It's like, so the bigger companies, I guess it's such a big ship, it's harder to turn, I guess. So, but
I think some of the smaller companies, it feels like they have a better pulse with what those riders want. When you're talking about a company like Transition or something like that, where it's like, I guess in my mind, you see like Downcountry, for example, like a short travel bike that has geo of more of an enduro bike, and I think that those are getting more and more popular, because just like Sean and I were having a conversation beforehand about the Ripley, that bike you can almost take anywhere, and it may be a little underbiked in some places, but you're not really going to be overbiked, and it's just going to be fun no matter what, and I think some of those bigger companies, you didn't see them jump into that game right away,
it was there's the front, they were still in the old school stuff, I was in Transition, and there might be some other ones I'm forgetting about, I can't remember, but they started the steeper seat angle, then slacking the front end out more, everything's backwards in the screen, but it took a while for all the bigger companies to jump on board. Now they're doing that, they're getting slacker and steeper. It's just it's like reversed, just I don't have anything against them, but people, they're Specialized people and there's Trek people, and they just kind of, that's what they like. So I mean, I think
Specialized bikes have always been really good bikes. So regardless of them getting this they're the big gorilla in the room, kind of people have this kind of attitude against them because of that. But at the end of the day, to me, the product speaks for itself. And I don't really know many people that have Specialized bikes that are not happy with them.
They're these stuff or something. Yeah, no, especially their road bikes. I mean, they make great road bikes and gravel bikes. I mean, there's nothing bad about their bikes. I mean, Ibises and Yetis and Pivots are better, but there's nothing bad about Specialized at all. I mean, it's solid.
Yeah, they've got a solid lineup. Mm-hmm. Then the Stump Jumper is pretty sweet. I'm not sure about the new Stump Jumper, but
didn't they do some? They did some real different stuff with that. I think I read that they don't have any any routing for mechanical shifting at all. So they
Yeah.
just fully leaned into the wireless.
Yeah, I don't like that.
It's not a good
So
idea.
you didn't speak up earlier, Rich, about the axis. Where are you on the transmission?
I think transmission is a huge leap forward.
Yeah.
I was not a fan of Axis. I didn't think that Axis really provided, in my opinion, I thought Axis didn't really provide any improvements in performance, but offered, yeah, cool. It cleaned up the cockpit. We got rid of some cables, but we added a lot of other complications in at the
Yeah.
same time. I always wasn't a fan, honestly, and I had it on. I tried it on a couple bikes, and it always came off. Always went right
Yeah.
back to wired. However, transmission, I, full disclosure, I received a GX and an XX transmission drivetrain from Tram, and I kind of would like actually to do a long term review on it because I've been on it since before release, and they're still on the bikes that I put them on. I haven't taken
Yeah.
them off, and I think that says a lot.
Yeah.
Would I be upset if I walked down to the basement and one of those bikes was back on an X01 or an XT? No, I wouldn't be upset about it.
Yeah.
But it's come a long, long way, and I do like it. I think it's got some flaws for sure. The tolerances are a bit tighter, basically like the chain width and the cassette, like the width of each cog is a little tighter. And when you get into like certain wet, gritty conditions, it is not good. That grit,
See, I wouldn't have any experience with that.
man, it gets like, it just starts to grind and sound really bad and feel bad. And also you can get stuff up under the controller pods. Not just like wet conditions. It could be like dry powder. And like when I was in Guatemala in December and it was like bone dry. And you think like riding boondocks in late summer up at North Star is dry. Like this was like dry. And I laid the bike down in a corner, like washed the front end out, and it was like a nothing crash, right? Like I was perfectly fine. But when I got up, all of a sudden I could not use my shifters because dust had like packed in behind the pod, and so you physically couldn't push the button in. So I had to like take a lot of time to like pull those off and like clear all that out and fix it. So, but on the upside too, when you're traveling, if you do travel, you fly around with bikes, drivetrain's always kind of the derailleur is a sensitive part of bike travel, and the axis is super sweet because it's so easy to pull that. It's so easy to set it back up.
It's not as easy with the transmission as it is, or as it was with the regular axis, though.
I think transmission's easier.
You think? I've had it a few times where it's like, if you don't get that rear axle tightened right, and it's like, because you don't have that B limit anymore, like sometimes it'll slide on you or something like that when you're trying to tighten it back up, and it's just like a little bit more problematic. It felt like it was easier for me to take off my derailleur on axis and just slap it back on. It would work.
It was close. Like, yeah, it was at least close. Yeah, like when I first did it, I went out to Santa Cruz and I had it on a pivot. And that was when they were still saying to do it at 25 Newton meters, instead of 35. And then it just kept messing up on me. And I was like, I hate this stuff. But
it was always supposed to be 35. They just mismarked the rating on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
they're falling off at first too. The little buttons you're talking about. You talking about all that mud and grit. Everybody can tell that you ride it wind rock a lot.
Yeah, I lost one of those buttons when I got the very first one. I don't know if they've changed the design at all, but I had I wiped out, and
I think.
Oh, sorry, I was muted.
New ones coming too. Some new buttons.
What was that? Say again.
I think there's supposed to be some new buttons coming soon. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there's it's already out. There's like a new pod shift. It's actually like it looks like the traditional axis shifter paddle, and it connects to the pod. So it gives you more of that other feel. But I actually like the pod. I like the ergonomics of it.
Yeah, the
And
pod
Sean,
doesn't bother me. A few of my friends have been using the old shifter because you could still use that one too.
yeah, I think the pod works better if you use the S bar clamp instead of the matchmaker. I had a hard time with the matchmaker, like getting the pod in a good position, but the S bar clamp is super nice, and it's so low profile that like it's still super clean. It looks really good.
Yeah.
But Sean, you just brought up a good point, and this is something I'd bring up in like a long-term review on transmission, is that those situations that from what I understand, like in a lot of places in the country where people regularly ride wet trails, that it hasn't really been an issue, like that particular grit in the soil. Places in the southeast, like Rock Creek, or like you mentioned, Wind Rock and stuff like that, yeah, you can pick that up. But it's like, how often, when you're talking about most people who are going to be interested in transmission, how many of them are going to be putting it on a bike that they're going to take to a place like that? You know what I mean? Like, so on my, just on a trail bike, if I had it on my XC bike, for example, that would never be a concern to me. It's so rare that I would ever come across a situation where I would have that much grit in the drivetrain and it would bother me. So yeah, it's an issue that's isolated to like a very certain situation. So
yeah,
I think
you're not going to be running that.
What's that?
You probably wouldn't be running that so much at at Wind Rock, but I mean, I guess people do because they talk about how strong and stuff it's supposed to be. But
I can say this:
they've never been to Wind Rock.
I ride a lot of stuff that's rocky and techy. That's kind of like what I prefer to ride, and like in areas that I've blown up and destroyed a lot of derailleurs. Put it that way, right?
Yeah.
And typically with Axis, let's just say the regular Axis, I was running that, and I would feel like if I built a new bike, it would shift perfect for about 6 months, and then about that many bangs off of rocks, and it like didn't shift perfect anymore. Then I was always kind of like screwing around with it. And with my transmission, the only time that thing has not shifted correctly has been 2 instances. One, my axle was loose, and it was like, oh, this is shifting like crap. And I started screwing around, pushing buttons, and then I realized that my wheel's just loose. Tighten the wheel up, and it's fine. And then the other circumstance would have been one of those scenarios where the derailleur like slid from the spot that it was supposed to be in.
Yeah.
And that was once again me assembling the bike maybe in a hurry and not paying attention. But otherwise, I mean, I beat the living crap out of that thing. I hear it like all the time when I bang it off of rocks. You can hear it shift like, and then you'll be riding along, you'll hear it shift back to wherever it was, and I'm just really blown away how much abuse that thing has taken, and my shifting is still like on point.
It's really good.
Yeah, it's like, and to me, like I'm a mediocre mechanic, and so like shifting has always been like probably one of the things that I didn't want to deal with the most. Where when we got rid of one of the chain rings up front and went to 2x, I was stoked. And when we went to 1x, I was like super stoked because then I have to deal with the freaking front derailleur at all anymore. Mm-hmm. And I feel like this to me is like that same change of going to 1x. It's like, it's that much that I would pay the price, even though I thought it was a bit expensive. Now they have a bunch of, cheaper stuff out, but even the initial price, like to me, it was like, it's worth the extra money to just never have to worry about my shifting being wrong.
And then for e-bikes, it's insane good. Like it's so much stronger on the, like, cause like if you put I love Shimano, but if you put like XT or XTR on an e-bike, I mean, you might have to change your cassette every 400 miles. I mean, it just destroys it.
Oh, yeah. I actually just checked both chains the other day. Original chains on both transmissions. Insane number of miles on them, and they are both like brand new. They haven't been stretching.
Yeah.
I haven't broken either one of them.
There was something about those chains I remember people were complaining about at first, and I don't remember what it was though.
Something about drag, I think. There was a tiny bit of it was costing 3 watts or something silly like that.
But the road bikers been using that chain for a while. I feel like if anybody was going to bitch about watts, it would have been them, right?
Yeah.
They did a big thing on it. I'm finding it interesting how I'm changing the subject. I'm like a squirrel. But what about the tire sizes? What have y'all think? Have y'all been experimenting? Do either one of you ride road bikes at all, or
no?
I ride a gravel
Not
bike
anymore.
a lot of on the road, but I think that you're getting at them going wider.
Yeah, the wide tires. They're figuring out how it's actually faster and stuff. It's been pretty cool since we took on Envy. And their super fast road bike will hold like a 40 millimeter wide tire or something like that. It's kind of crazy.
Their gravel bike's super clean looking. I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, man, this thing looks sharp as hell.
Yeah, I didn't think I'd find anything I like better than a Haka, but sorry, Ibis. Envy's Mog.
Yeah,
badass. It's really
that thing's dialed. I saw it at Sea Otter when it first came out, and I was just like, wow, that thing's pretty. It's
comfortable too. It's you need your gravel bike to be pretty comfortable, and then you can throw I think I have 47s on it. They're just like so smooth. I usually use that as my road bike, and then I decided to build. I got some SRAM red. The new SRAM red came out, and I threw that on the Envy Fray, and then I threw Bert. I mean, I just made it. It was like 15 pounds or something like that. But I didn't think I've never really been in a road biking that much. But I was like, there's no way this bike is going to be any faster than my gravel bike. Maybe a little bit, but all that stuff that all these roadies are talking about, like the aero helmet, the aero frames, the bars, all that, and then wearing the onesie suit and stuff, it makes a difference. It's unbelievable. Like the first ride I went out, I was like hanging with people that I normally can't. It's probably 25%.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. It was.
Yeah. I won't go to the onesie suit, man. I'm not.
Well, I didn't either, but
I was about to ask if you were in a onesie suit.
No, I didn't do that. But
the onesie, it's making its way to downhill as well.
Last few Monday night rides, I do the Monday night recovery ride with the real fast roadies. On Monday nights they recover. It's a recovery ride, and that's like, I'm pushing it, right? They're recovering and I'm just trying to keep up on a gravel bike this whole time. And then I switched to the road bike, and I was like, oh, this is no problem now. And then I switched to I went ahead and bought like a little aero helmet, and
oh my gosh,
I did, yeah.
We need a picture of
that.
Maybe
probably a Power Ranger.
Yeah, and then I did the kit up top and bottom, no flapping shirt or shorts, and I felt legit I was with my peers. Everybody was wearing the suits. So
yeah, I just can't do it.
Cycling costumes is what my wife calls them.
I'm going with the if I ride in mountain biker clothes, it just makes me stronger. That's my outlook.
Yeah. Until you try the cycling costume, and then you'll be like, "Oh, it did make
That's it, huh?"
Yeah.
I feel like nobody went wasn't there like a skit on Saturday Night Live or something like that? It was like fat man in a little jacket. That's me. I don't need to be.
Chris Farley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy though. Some of these road guys, man, they're way out of. Like if you look down, you would think that they couldn't walk up the steps. I mean, they don't look like they're in shape. And then they get out there. I guess it's because they're just repetitive. You get out there and they're on like a 40-mile ride or something, and they're averaging 22 miles an hour. And you're just like, how is this guy? What's going on here?
Yeah, because they're so much smaller, man. They only have to put out like 70 watts, and they're going as fast as us putting out 300.
Yeah. And I guess they get used to a consistent, just consistent pedaling. It's almost like an e-bike. My buddy Phil does it. You met Phil, didn't you, Rich?
Yeah.
Kind of funny. He's went full e-bike. He's got an e-road bike, e-mountain bike, and he goes on the big rides with all the roadies, but he's on an e-bike. You know,
Phil seems like someone who'd be a Saturday Night Live character.
he's pretty funny. Funny stuff.
He is funny.
So where do you want to see N1 go?
Well, I mean, I guess take over the world. I don't know. No, I mean, I just think I want to, I'd like to just keep getting the name out there. And I guess I'm competitive. I'm not really trying to like beat people, but I just do it to motivate myself. Like I put companies in my sights, like I want to sell more Ibis than competitive cyclist, and I accomplished that. Now I want to do more Yetis, and I keep doing that. So I want to get to where, I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty happy where we are right now.
So you want to be like the #1 online bike retailer is kind of what you're shooting for right now.
Yeah, yeah, sure. I'm all about that. I love that. I think where we're going, we can get there. I mean, but I'm not about like trying to put anybody out of business or do anything stupid like that. I just want to be the best we can be, right? And if that means we're the #1 dealer in the world on everything, then that's great. I just want to be the best that we can possibly be, and I want that all the staff and everybody to kind of. We have such a good crew. I mean, I want everybody to feel the same way, and have the same outlook and goals, and like we've had people here before, and like ask them like, what's your goal over the next 6 months? I'd maybe do like a little questionnaire. It's like if you have to have some kind of goal. It's just like in anything you do. Like you guys want more followers, right? You want to answer more of the people that are asking you how much your bike weighs every like so. How much is that?
No,
weigh?
I don't want to answer that.
But that's important to some people.
Rich has a bot that just answers all his comments.
Yeah. It's so important to some people. I'm not sure why. I was discussing how much the 3 or 4 different headsets weigh the other day with a guy. And I think he was just happy that I was willing to discuss it with him. I looked it up. He kept asking me. I wanted to go, what's it matter? It doesn't matter, But I looked it up and I was like, well, this was 53 grams. That one's 58. It was all minimal, but it was important to that person. And I kind of want everybody that works here to understand that what's important to you might not be important to someone else. So you have to kind of go with the flow, right?
Yeah. How big's your team?
We are about, full time, we're only about 7 deep.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to try it. I've always been, it was funny. I guess I can think about my dad. He always wanted to pay people as little as possible. And then even when I worked for him, even when I was a teenager, I was like, you got all these people here. He probably had 70 employees in his restaurant. We had like a family-owned restaurant that was open 24/7, and he was just so super cheap. Greatest guy in the world, but he was just like, but he wanted to keep his prices cheap too. So he's like paying, like he would have to hire more people to do the same thing. I was like, you could take all your key people and just pay them twice as much, and they'll do 3 times the work. So everybody here, makes pretty good money. So I feel like if people are getting what they need to get the job done, then you can do so much more. Like you could take. I won't even mention it, but there's a bike shop here in town that they just keep hiring people. It's like whoever wants to work there, and then they just got all these people there just bumping into walls. It's like I'd rather spend some time and find the right person, pay them the right amount, and then make them part of something and be. So, Ibis is kind of that way too. I mean, I would say Ibis is understaffed, but they have. Everybody that works there, it seems like like Jonathan, I don't have to come in and tell him what to do, and and Zach, my son just started, he's the general manager here now. My son, Zach, he was in insurance, and I'm super lucky to have him because he's in a lot of ways, he's like me, but he's just smarter. He's more intelligent. It's like both of my kids are way smarter than me. And he's streamlined things so well. We were doing like 5 things to make one thing happen, and now we're just doing the one thing. It's like, why are you doing this? And I'm like, I don't know. It's like, I was like, you just fix it. You just fix everything so fast. And everybody kind of took to it. But I think if you have the right people in place and you take care of them the way that you make them part of it, then same thing with your customers and your network. I mean, I think I love that we have a big network, and it's mostly organic. It's not like I'm just feeding Google to put ads out there. I think when people call us, it's almost always so and so had a good experience and they recommended you.
Yeah.
And so I feel like your network is your net worth. So yeah, it's kind of
100%.
Yeah.
Right on, man. That's awesome. I think that like what you're doing obviously is working well, and as long as you keep doing that, don't tell anybody else, you'll be number one before you know it, right?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm not, but it's there's always someone better. There's always going to be a better way, and I'm smart enough to know that I'm not the smartest. So I'm all about advice. Like, I don't take it. Sometimes people will say, well, why don't you try this or why don't you try that? And then the person gets all butthurt and like, I don't. I'm just like, oh, yeah, okay. There's things that, I could, Rich could probably show me how to do videos and I would never understand what he's saying, but I could never do it as well, But I know that I'm not, like I'm not out here trying to make YouTube videos because I know they're going to suck.
Yeah.
Do I do a few here and there? I do as best I can, and then maybe it helps. I like the informational ones, like how to unpack your box. That's been real helpful. I mean, I know that I'm going to do whatever I can to make my customers happy and make sure that they're taken care of, and I'm always going to give them the benefit of the doubt. And I feel like we don't have that. It's like old school stuff. You just don't have that anymore.
Is pricing set by the manufacturers, or is that something that you as a shop have like?
Well, you have the map. You have map pricing that you're supposed to go by. Like if Ibis has a, if someone has the way everything's been on sale lately, no one really gives a shit about that stuff anymore. But there is like set pricing, like minimum advertised price,
right?
And even with Ibis, like they don't want me like to undercut them on what their builds are. But now if I want to go and make an exclusive build, like we're going to have one coming up, like that. They got rid of XX, right? They have the things they're offering on the new bikes is, I think it's a Dior, SLX XT, GX Axis, and XO. So we're going to have a GX mechanical and a XX. That'll be like our exclusive build. We're like building our own builds, I guess you could call it. So yeah, stuff like that we do. And like,
I think the main reason I'm asking is like the pricing, for the most part, people can get the pricing no matter where they go. The reason that they're going to shop with you is because you will take care of them as far as anything that they want to potentially do different. And then also just customer service wise, that's where your shop is shining.
Yeah, I hope so. That's what my goal is, to get that. I mean, like with Yeti doesn't have a Shimano build right now, but we do. And I got that from Gonger. He was like, Yeti, everybody wants an XT, so we just made a bunch of XTs. I ordered a bunch of XO builds. They want the T series and an XT, so I ordered a bunch of the XO. I think they were T3s or whatever. So we just take the XO stuff off and put it on our Ibises, and then we put the XT stuff on the Yetis, and now we have a whole other build. And people like that. Everybody wants what they want, So do I want to do everything custom? But you get a lot out of it when someone calls you up and they're like, hey, like they'll ask you something so stupid, like so easy as, can we change the grips? They're like, yeah, I can change anything you want. What about the tires? Can we get different tires? I'm sure. I mean, all the tires cost the same. I asked the guy, and a dissector, it's the same price to me. Why would I not swap that out?
Right.
Sure, I will. It's not that big of a deal. Where, I mean, some shops and companies, like I got called up. I ran out of 170. No one really uses 175 cranks anymore, so it was kind of comical. I was looking around at a lot of shops near me. I needed a 175 crank for a guy, a T-type XX 175, but he was fine with XO or GX. He just wanted a 175. He had a race, and he had just bought a bike, but I put a 170 on there because I figured that's what everybody wants. But this guy was like 6'2", like 36 inseam or something, so he wanted long cranks. I called around. I was like, hey, do you all have GX, XO, or XX, T-type crank, and a 175? And 50% of the shops didn't even know what a T-type crank was. They're like, T-type, we have NX. It's like, or people will call. I get a lot of people that get in touch with us, and they'll just talk about, I called so-and-so, and they said they didn't have that. And so I called you, and you have it. And it wasn't that we had it here. It was that, they didn't even tell them they could order it for them. It was like,
I've had that with a few shops recently when I'm looking for something specific, and like you have to go through this 20 questions game to make sure the guy you're talking to actually knows what he's talking about.
I mean, I've done that. Or you feel like super awkward walking in.
I was looking for MTX pads for my TRP Evo brakes, right? And MTX makes a TRP pad that's not for their 4-piston Evos. So it's like two different shops were like, oh yeah, we got what you need. And it's like first one I went to and it wasn't there. And then the other one, I called and they were like, oh yeah, we got them. I was like, does it say this? It's like on the box, and they're like, oh no, it's not that one. I'm like, well, you just answered the question wrong. So, but yeah, no, that's awesome that you guys have that expertise there and that you're being able to take care of people that way. We're rolling up on 2 hours here,
sure. Man. We make mistakes. Sometimes I'm like, I have no idea what that is. Like, I don't mind telling someone that.
Yeah.
I'm sure Rich has asked me about certain things, and I was like, what? but then after if you find that for them, then that, it's the next, it's just a learning process, and you just keep building blocks,
Well, we're rolling up on 2 hours. It's been awesome chatting with you, Sean and Rich, both. It's been super fun. I usually ask people what YouTube channels they watch. And I'm just going to ask you, Sean, because Rich has been on the show before, and maybe we'll have him on for Cindy again here in the future. But what do you like to watch on YouTube? Doesn't matter if it's mountain bikes or not.
I mainly watch mountain bike stuff.
What channels do you like to watch?
I go through all of them. I have a big list. I watch both of you guys. Obviously, Joe, Cali Rado Kid. I still watch Motorhead every once in a great while, just to see what they're doing. April Zastro, did I say her name right? I'm trying to think of everybody.
I don't know what April.
I love watching Jeff Kindleweed, even though he says call Jensen, but
you got to get him on. You got to get him on.
I see him in person, I'm like, can we switch over yet? Like, how much are they paying you? He does.
Right on.
He's pretty happy there, but there's a bunch of them. I like what's the one guy's name? There's a couple of them I don't even remember their names, but I watch them. I watch some of the I like watching some of the ones that are kind of coming up too, just to see where they go.
It's always fun catching the new channels when they're about blowing up.
There was one called Flo. I can't remember the name. I'm terrible with remembering names, but I was watching him. I was like, oh, that's pretty good. And then he walked into my shop and he started talking about us. And I was like, what the, like, who is that? I was like, who is this? I thought, did I call you and ask you or something, Rich? I was like, I don't remember the guy coming up. He came in, he bought a bike, and he did a nice little video on the shop. And he it was pretty cool. I mean, he only has about 500 followers, but it was still pretty
Yeah.
cool. You know,
There you go.
he had just
So
started.
you have the one
Yeah.
retail shop and then the website, right? That's the way to
Yep.
way to
Yeah,
go.
we're gonna be here for a while. We just moved to this new location, which is way bigger, and we have a basement upstairs. But it's getting ready to be, in a few years, it's going to be taken over by one of the local high schools. So we're just kind of buying our time here until I can find something to buy. I love the way this place is laid out, but I think the main, I want to try and get somewhere that's just like really big and open, and then maybe have a plan of like in the back of my mind, I'm thinking we could have like an indoor track going around the perimeter or something.
There you go.
But my son's in insurance before this, so he's
Yeah, so he's like,
I don't know if it's going to work. Yeah,
yeah.
but yeah, we're going to try and find something, and then maybe we branch out to a couple of little satellites here and there, depending on where. But just kind of see how things go. You got to keep moving and see how, because everything's changing all the time. So you got to keep the camera moving. You know.
Sweet. Well, Sean, thanks for hanging out. Same thing to you, Rich. Those of you guys that have been listening this long, if you want to go check out the site, it's N+1Bikes.com, and same thing. You can search them on Instagram, and it's got the socials going on there as well. But N+1Bikes.com, and if you want something for free, remember this: it only takes a bike to be a biker. Get out and be one.
Thanks, man. Take it easy.
Yeah.